and welcome to Daily Records, and we are continuing our look at the original Beatles albums as released in England in the 60s. And for the month of July, that's our feature for Daily Records. And we're going to continue right along with A Hard Day's Night. Now wait a minute, Tommy. Hard Day's Night, that's a movie, right? It is a movie directed by Richard Lester. And it was sort of a sign-in or cash-in deal that United Artists release a movie starring the Beatles because they were going to get to release the soundtrack in the United States. And so it was a win-win situation. They were going to get these Beatles songs. By this point, Beatlemania, full-blown effect worldwide, especially in the United States. But this is the album as released in England on July 10th, 1964 on the Parlophone label. Now, this is unique. Not only is this the third Beatles album, this is the only Beatles album that they ever released to feature entirely John Lennon and Paul McCartney compositions. The songwriting partnership of Lennon and McCartney composed every single track on this album. And so it's the only one that features that. So there's a trivia question for you. Now, this album is quite interesting because they sort of let go a lot of the old rock and roll and R&B influence that permeates throughout the first two albums. And the songs on this album definitely display more of a pop sort of sensibility. The songs are peppier, maybe a little shorter in some regards, but it's this sort of upbeat sort of driving factor to a lot of the songs. So it's a great pop album. And there's a little bit of that R&B influence that creeps through on a couple of tracks, but for the most part, these are pop rock songs. Now, the first side of the album was the soundtrack to the film. Like I said, wonderful film directed by Richard Lester. And it kicks off with the title track, Hard Day's Night, like a shot out of a cannon. Fantastic song, great double lead vocal. John Lennon taking most of the lead with Paul singing in a fantastic bridge. I Should Have Known Better, harmonica-driven song with John's harmonica. If I Fell, a beautiful ballad with a wonderful harmony between Lennon and McCartney. I'm Happy Just to Dance With You, sung by George Harrison. And I Love Her, wonderful Paul McCartney acoustic ballad. Tell Me Why. And Can't Buy Me Love, which was a big hit. A lot of people know that song. It was a great scene in the movie. And then side two weren't songs from the movie, but they were written in that time period and recorded for the album. And really an interesting sort of glimpse into where Lennon and McCartney were as songwriters. I love the opening track of side two, Anytime at All. It begins with a crack of Ringo's snare drum and just takes off. Just one of those exhilarating Beatles tracks for me. I'll Cry Instead is a little bit of that sort of pulling in some of that R&B influence, John Lennon's song. Things We Said Today, Paul McCartney starting to explore lyrically more sort of poetic lyrics and just a wonderful little melody. When I Get Home. Now, I have to pick on When I Get Home because there's a line in that some of you know really, really kind of drives me crazy. I'm going to love her till the cows come home. It just bothers me a little bit. It's Lennon sort of using an American sort of phrase, and it just doesn't work for me. You can't do that. Now, there's the R&B kind of coming back in with a great beat. And then I'll Be Back, which I love that as an album closer because it's like the Beatles saying, don't worry, we will be back. This isn't the last you'll hear from us. And it wasn't. But it makes for a really, really great album. As far as early Beatles, I think this is the sort of best early Beatles album because it sums up all of that wonderful pop stuff. The fact that it's all Lennon and McCartney originals. Just makes Hard Day's Night one of the best examples of early Beatlemania. I think my buddy James Griffiths, Beatle James, he has a video where he talks about that, and I agree with him. I think this is Beatlemania in a single record capsule, and so there it is. So today's Daily Record, today's Beatles Spotlight, Hard Day's Night, the third Beatles album. Like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's Tommy Burton75. I love interacting with you guys. Check out my other channel, Tommy Burton's VC channel. And in the meantime, I will see you all again tomorrow with another Daily Record.